Hello, Joy Brooks with Email and Coffee. What did you want to be when you were growing up? More importantly, what did you want to do? Many of us consider that our lives are linear journeys, but perhaps, like the Earth revolving around the sun and the sun traversing the universe, our lives are elliptical and spiral. I talked with Jaina Mystery about her path, her past, her future, and where she currently finds her peace. And now, Jaina Mystery. Hey everyone, Joy Brooks with Email and Coffee. Just a little technical difficulty today. Must be one of those electromagnetic Fridays. Today, I am speaking with Jaina Mystery, who I've just become acquainted with, and we're going to talk about something a little off topic. But in the meantime, Jaina, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Jaina. I am currently the Director of Brand and Content Marketing at Litmus. I think Litmus might be a little bit familiar to you all, to a few of those out there. But I have been in and around all things email for I don't know how long, like 15 plus years. Definitely ages me a lot. I'm an email marketer at heart, but in the last couple of years, I've made the transition over to content and brand marketing. So I'm excited just to chat to you, Joy, about tangentially related things to email today.
You know, it's funny because I branded Email and Coffee 4 years ago, and I started talking to people in email marketing about email marketing. And I was really excited to do that. And within a year, I thought to myself, how long can I talk to people about email marketing? I mean, I love it. I do it, but how long can I do this? And then I thought, well, you know what? I'll talk to people in email marketing about whatever they want to talk about. And then I thought, I'll talk to anybody about anything. I mean, it sounds desperate, but it was sort of my attempt to sort of be vertical to email marketing people, because email marketing people have lots of interests.
They do.
You know, we're just people.
Yes.
And we work with a lot of people. It's not, you know, many times when you're like a doctor and you work with lots of different people, they're in all different industries. So like email marketing people are sort of like doctors. We work with everybody.
That's one of my favorite.
And we try to fix stuff.
Yes, that's one of my things that I always tell people, like email marketers, to be good at if they're in their early parts of their careers, is you have to make friends with everyone. You never know where you're going to need support from a software engineer, or from someone else in marketing, from someone over in the tech teams, from like leadership. Make friends.
Yeah, it's very true. And one of the biggest things I found in the beginning of my career was that I needed to make friends in IT. And IT doesn't think much of marketing people.
No.
And they think of email marketing people even worse. We're like the marketing people who think we know stuff about IT.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, it's always precarious, but the most important thing is really burn no bridges. I mean, in any career, burn no bridges.
Yeah.
You might want to give people a piece of your mind. Give them a piece of cake instead.
Or choose which pieces of mind to give
Yeah.
that is going to be worth it in the long run. And more often than not, it's not really worth it for anyone.
Yeah. It's somewhat different. It's somewhat, you know, life is like that.
Yeah.
Life is sometimes difficult. And sometimes the mouth moves faster than the brain.
Uh-huh.
And you'll find yourself in mid-sentence saying, isn't that exactly what I just told myself not to say? Who's controlling me right now?
Yeah, whoops, I said that. It's out. Oh, well.
Yeah, it's out now. So I thought, you thought, we thought that we talk about something I think that everybody thinks about every now and then. When we go back in time and we think about ourselves as kids, oftentimes, or even in our career, when we think forward, we think, what do we want to be when we grew up? But also, there's a second thought to that. There's, many of us say, oh, I wanted to be a princess, things like that, right? But what did we want to do? And that's somewhat different than be. And there can be different answers because, if you want to be a princess growing up, then what did you want to do? Nothing. Sit around. So, and the interesting thing is that if you think forwards and backwards, you may find common threads that you don't expect to see. And if you don't see the common threads, maybe you need to go into the bathroom, shut the door, and have a conversation with yourself in the mirror. So, Jaina, what did you want to be when you grew up?
That was hard for me. I didn't really have a focus, and I think my focus for what I wanted to be stemmed from what my parents wanted me to be growing up. So I come from, I'm brown, I'm Indian, I come from a South Asian family. And as many South Asian families want their parents to be, they want them to be lawyers, they want them to be accountants, they want them to be doctors, they want them to be engineers. So growing up, I thought I wanted to be a doctor because that's what my parents wanted me to be. So I was like, okay. But then I had a huge love of animals, and I was like, oh, maybe I could be a vet because that's kind of doctor adjacent. Maybe I want to be that. And I was like, so that was what, when I was a child, when I was a teenager, that was what I wanted. I thought I wanted to be because primarily that's like what my parents had envisioned for me, what my grandparents had envisioned for me. And I was too young to have an open enough mind to understand, like, I don't have to be what my parents want me to be. But I came from a household, my parents weren't strict at all. I don't want to paint a bad picture of them at all. I mean, I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't have a ton of their support. But that was my perception as a child. So that was the direction I thought. Like, it has to be a very specific career that is going to give you success in the future, but you need to start thinking about it now.
Did they mention marriage?
Yes, that was always a big thing. I had to be married, and I don't know if I should dive into this. Maybe I should just dive into it now and be a complete open book about this. So again, coming back to my heritage, my parents had an arranged marriage. It was arranged in the sense that they agreed on whether they wanted to be married or not, and it wasn't arranged in the sense they didn't have a choice behind it. Obviously, my parents didn't necessarily want that for me because times have changed, but there's still also that pressure of being married by a certain age and being on your way to having a family. So that was part and parcel of what they envisioned for me that I should be, and then what I thought I wanted to be growing up too. So like by the age of 24, I'll be married and I'll have kids, and nowhere near, well, halfway to that, but not really. So it's kind of, yeah, that was definitely part and parcel of it.
I remember, oddly enough, I remember wanting to be married, but never did I ever think of kids.
Interesting.
Never. And I don't have kids. It just was, it was scary for me. And my parents didn't do a bad job. There's nothing in it other than, I was always afraid to hold babies.
Oh.
Always. I don't know if something happened when I was very young. I don't know. Did I drop a baby? I don't know. But I was always afraid. Like when I babysat, young kids I could handle. Babies petrified me. Petrified me. Absolutely petrified me. I mean, I could change their diapers. I could feed them, but I was petrified by them. Be like, oh, am I going to drop them? How am I holding them? So, yeah. So, and I was at the beginnings of the women's lib with Gloria Steinem and all of that. So there was a point when I was in my 20s where I thought to myself, I don't even need to be married.
Yeah.
And it didn't necessarily occur to me. It wasn't happening. I wasn't getting married. It didn't necessarily occur to me that Gloria Steinem said it was okay, but it just wasn't happening. So I married when I was 40. And by that point, as I said, I didn't have kids. It was kind of late. So it just didn't work out. But it's interesting that when I look back, I think to myself, I was looking for a boyfriend. I wasn't looking for a husband. And even when I picked guys to be with, they weren't husband material. And my father would say this to me all the time. He would say, Joy, can you imagine them being the father of your children? And would be the next day I'd break up with them. Because I'd be like, no,
No.
no. And you know, it was interesting. A little different. I wanted to be an astronaut.
Ah. I feel like it's a very common thing for a lot of kids to want to be, because their astronauts are amazing. They're out in space. They're doing really cool things. They're doing things that very few people are doing. Like, was that
Well,
your
when
motivation behind it?
when I was, let's see, I'm going to do the math really quick. So I was 14 when Apollo 12 landed on the moon. And that was big, 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 big. And I wanted to be an astronaut. And I actually, when I went to college, I wanted to major in science. And I thought I could do this. I didn't get past biology in college. I didn't get past it. I was like, oh, this is not going to work. They had us, doing math, and I was not I just couldn't apply it to my brain at that point in time. Couldn't do it. So I was like, okay, I better rethink this. This is critical. Better pick something else. So, but it's interesting because you said you want, you want to be a doctor, you want to be a vet. When did it happen that you decided to be doing what you were doing? They always say that email finds you, but
Yeah.
because email's new, it's not like, oh, well, I went to school, I studied to be an email marketing specialist. I don't even know you could do it now. Maybe you can do it now.
Yeah, it's funny. One of my friends, when we first met, you do that whole thing where you introduce each other. It's like, oh, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, yeah, I work in email marketing. And she's like, wow, that didn't even exist when you were born. And it only really clocked to me then. I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, email marketing did not exist back in 1984. It was not a thing. I don't know when I decided I wasn't gonna become a doctor. I think it was like a series of events that led up to it. Because in England, when you go to school, well, the school that I went to, you have to make decisions about what you want to, that will have an impact on what you will eventually be when you're a grown up, very early age. So like I had to choose what's the subjects that you do in school for GCSEs. So kind of you take GCSE exams at 15, 16 years old. But I had to make those elections when I was 13 years old. So at 13 years old, and so then what you do at GCSE will have an impact on what you do for your A-level subjects too. So if you choose not to do something like history at GCSE, you can't do it at A-level. So there's me, like 13, 14-year-old me, trying to figure out what I'm doing for my GCSEs. You have to choose something like 14 or so different subjects. Some things you have to do, like maths and English and a language of some sort. So that was when I was like, okay, so I'm going to go on this medicine path. I don't know if I'm going to be like a doctor or a surgeon or vet, but like it's going to be in this biology medical sort of career. And I did pretty well in my GCSEs. I went to a very, very competitive school. I test incredibly poorly. I work my freaking butt off all the time, but I'm not. I just test badly, and I hate people who test well and do zero work. My husband is one of those people, so I try to remind him about all the time. It's like, I hate you for this, but anyway, I digress. So that was my GCSEs, and then I did pretty well. And I was like, yeah, I can still do this. And then in the back of my mind, I was thinking, but maybe there are other opportunities there. But in the back of my mind, I'm also thinking about what my parents still want me to be too. And I'm having a little bit like, they're not actively putting pressure on me, but we recently did Enneagram tests at Litmus. We did them across the marketing team. And I'm apparently a 1. So 1 is like a perfectionist. So obviously that's been a part of me probably my whole life. And like this idea of like, I want to prove that I'm going to be doing the right thing that my parents want me to do is kind of in the back of my head. So I chose at A-level, I think it was biology, chemistry, math with stats, and I can't remember the fourth one that I chose. But again, sticking with that kind of like medical sort of field. So at like 17, 16, 17, I thought I was still going to be doing this. And then when it came to what universities I wanted to apply for, I think that was when my brain was like, I don't think I can do this. I don't think medicine's for me. I went to, there was a university in England, Nottingham University. They did like you go to the university for something like 4 to 5 days. You live in halls. You go through sessions and things like that, show you like what it would be like to be a med student. And I enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it. But I was starting to think like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this, but I didn't know how to tell my parents. I didn't know how to be like, so when I did eventually tell my parents, I was like, I know I've done all of this, but I don't know if I want to do that at university. They were like, they thought that it was my teachers telling me this, that I wasn't good enough for it. And parents being parents think you are the best of everything. They think you're wonderful and everything. And I knew that it wasn't necessarily right for me. So they were thinking of other fields that are similar, like optometry or dentistry or things like that. It's like, but they require the same amounts of skills and knowledge that I just did not have back then. So when I told them I was going to go to university and do a degree in computer science, my dad was not happy with me at all. My mum was trying to be supportive and trying to like, okay, maybe this is just something she'll do and maybe she'll do something else and she can still do optometry afterwards. And it was a whole thing. And the reason I chose computer science was, okay, so my brother did computer science. He's a couple of years older than me, but he was at university and he did computer science. But the reason I chose it, and this is kind of a strange one, so I think it was the age of when I was about probably 14 years old, over a like big summer break. I wanted to like do something that would teach me something. So I decided to learn how to write HTML, write code, design websites over the course of summer. And I did that by creating a Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan site. And I enjoyed it. I loved it. It was like, and then I got obsessed with it. Like every single week when there was a new episode out, I would update my website. I would write things. I would add content. I played around with Flash. I really got stuck into CSS. I started learning JavaScript. I started learning PHP. But all the while I was doing this, I think my parents saw what was happening and they were like, oh, this isn't a career. This can't be a career. This will never be a career for you. You can't make money out of this. I started adding in Google ads at the time. Yeah, exactly. I started adding Google ads into my website at the time, and I started raking in something like $1,000 a month on Google ads just by putting ads up. And like that was my first, like I didn't know, but obviously back then that was me doing some paid marketing, and I was like learning things that I'm kind of adjacent to now. But I think that's what sparked my interest in graphic design, in development, in the more technical side of things. So I went to university, I did computer science, and it was very technical, very theoretical, not at all a lot of the software development things that I thought I would be doing. But it was, yeah, that was the moment where I was, but it was very hard for me to come to terms with it for myself because I thought I had this path set out for me from like an early teenager. I was going to be a doctor. I was going to be married. I was going to have kids. I was going to do all these things and that. And like when one little thing went off my path, I was like, oh, okay, this is it. But looking back, I'm so glad I did it. I'm so glad I was not in med school for years and years and years. And like that is essentially your life. Like I'm very happy with the path that I ended up going down.
You know, I think for most of us, we want to be passionate about work. We want to love every day of it. I don't know if that's romantic or if that's realistic. Maybe it's a little bit of both. I don't know if our parents looked at work that way. I certainly did. So I'm a baby boomer. So I think that I don't know. I think that going through college, you start finding things that you have to do. Well, in other words, you reach the point of where your parents clearly expect you to do X, Y, and Z. Now you're becoming somewhat of an adult. You go away to school, and the disconnect begins where your parents aren't there, and you think to yourself, I can't do this. I know this is going to kill them, but I can't do this, right? So I think that was sort of the beginning of, at least in the Americas, I don't know what it was like in the UK or even in Europe, of the change, the switch where work wasn't a four-letter word, that we wanted to do what we wanted to do. We wanted to be passionate, love it, connect with it, mission, have a mission, be aligned. And the jobs that I got in the beginning, first I was a teacher. And then I was like, I can't do this. I don't want to teach. I was teaching Latin.
Oof.
I was like, I don't think I want to do this. So that lasted not even a semester. Well, it lasted a semester. And I thought, I don't know what I want to do. And I went into, restaurant. I was a hostess. And my folks were like, we sent you to school for this? I graduated with a degree in the classics. I wanted to be an archaeologist. So it went from being who I wanted to be when I grew up. I went from being an astronaut to being an archaeologist. That was a true passion for me. When I was getting ready to graduate, I said to my mother, I want to apply to the academy in Athens. And she said, over my dead body, and she meant it.
Oh dear.
And I was like, well, I guess archaeology's not happening. And my father said, get a job in the city. And I was like, no, I'll get a job for what I studied for. And I got it. Like I said, I got a job. Didn't work. Then I started in restaurant business, because I didn't know what else to do. I worked that for a little while. And then I got a job in the city. And that began the real career, where I started working for money. And that's where what do you want to, not who do you want to be, but what do you want to do, right? And that concept of, some people might say, what do you want to do when you grow up? Make money.
Yeah.
Right. Be a mom. Have kids. What do you want to do, right? I don't know if I thought it through. I had no idea what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I enjoyed reading and writing. That was what I did. And some kids are, they're athletes, right? So they're doing all the time. So they're always thinking of what they're doing. Did you have a different concept of what you wanted to do when you grew up, other than what you wanted to be?
I don't think I did. And I think that's because we weren't encouraged to think like that. We weren't encouraged to think, what do you want to do? Like, what do you want to spend the rest of your life doing? And honestly, to be asked that when you're a teenager, how do you even answer that? Like, you can't answer that. I don't expect a teenager right now to, if I turn to one who was like 13, 14 years old, like, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? I would expect them to say, I want to find a passion. I want to enjoy myself. I want to enrich other people's lives. Like, that's what I would imagine. But I didn't have that thinking when I was a teenager. And I don't necessarily expect teenagers to think that way, but it's
I
really
think it
hard.
might be helpful for them. I think,
Yes.
if and maybe some parents do instill that in kids more along the lines of, what do you want to do? What do you enjoy doing? Because I had friends that, for example, I had a friend. I mean, I enjoy gardening, but she had, she had a passion for flowers, and she came out with a degree in flowers. I don't know what that degree is, but she opened a flower store, and she
Uh-huh.
horticulture. There you go.
There you
Does have an actual name. It's not. I have a degree in flowers. She became a horticulturist and opened a store, and she knew what she wanted to do.
go.
I didn't equate the two at all.
Yeah.
And during my career, I discovered what I enjoyed doing. And again, I like to read and I like to write. And I was doing that. And I sort of just fell into marketing. And it wasn't so much that I liked marketing, but that what I was doing in marketing was publishing and marketing. So I was sort of doing one of these half, advertorial, different, like
Mm-hmm.
a hybrid type of job where, I wasn't in marketing and just doing marketing. I was, when did I start marketing? A magazine. So when I left NBC, which was a great job, I was getting into technology.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, at that point in time, people were moving from dumb terminals to PCs and Macintoshes. And I was learning all the different apps. And when I left NBC, I had learned, oh gosh, PageMaker. I believe it was
Oh,
PageMaker at the time.
wow.
Right?
Wow.
I learned PageMaker. And I got a job as in publishing, creating the magazine, making the magazine itself, laying it out.
That's cool.
And from there, I went to editing. From there, I went to editor. And sort of that started going. And from magazines, it was clear. I went to books. It was clear that everything was going digital. So it was sort of a natural pattern where I knew I was doing things I like to do, right? And now it was like, what am I going to be while I'm doing these things?
Mm-hmm.
And then email marketing fell into place. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
this is me. This is me.
Yeah.
And I just stuck with it. And it's made me very happy, although, there have been times where it's 4:00 in the morning and I'm pounding the desk going, you can't pay me enough for this. But that I blame on Outlook and no one but
Yeah.
Outlook.
Yeah.
Now I blame it on Gmail, Google Pixel.
Yeah.
But in any case, so when did doing and being find its way? Like, when did you know, yeah, this is right?
So I think it was when I landed my first web design development job. Before that, so straight out of university, I again, like I was going down, okay, so if I'm not doing the typical path of becoming a doctor and going to med student and doing that path, I'm still going to stick to a path. But after university, I'm going to apply to graduate programs at consultancy firms in London, and I'm going to get on a grad program. I'm going to be put on a path within like a big consultancy, one of the big consultancy companies. And I did that. I joined a consultancy company. I was working primarily as part of like third line tech support. So I was doing server support for an IT consulting firm for one of their contracts. the contract got moved around between companies, so I shifted companies, and then I was like, I went to university to do computer science. I still really like doing web development. Maybe I should become a software developer. So I tried becoming a software developer, and it went so badly. I was so bad at it. I couldn't do it, and
It's
it
not
might have
easy.
been because
It's difficult. It's very
it was
difficult.
like C# and C++, and I could not get my head around how to write code at all. And maybe this was a part of it as well, but I was in a company and they had, again, it was part of a grad program. So you join it as a graduate. And I was one of the older graduates, older. And there was 3 of us, and our like grad mentor, I was the only female. Our grad mentor excluded me from things. I was not invited to the pub. I was not asked to go play Topgolf with everyone. I was constantly excluded. So I probably excluded myself from a lot of things at that company. So all in all, it probably wasn't a great fit for me at all. So then I had like another moment of, oh, like, shit, what am I doing with my life now? Because I don't have a path. Like I'd lost my path. Again, my parents were like, why don't you try optometry? You could go back to university. You're still young. You could still do it. I just knew it wasn't the right thing. So I was still running my Buffy and then Angel fan site at the time. I had gone into Stargate as well. So I was running a couple of different fan sites for a couple of different things. I was like, you know what? I know my parents said that this isn't a career. I'm going to try and find a job where I can be a web designer and developer and I get paid for it. And I did. I landed a job at a TV auction website. So you got QVC where you buy things online, but this was in the UK. There was like a bidding version of it. So it was like gamifying buying a little bit, and kind of a weird place. You had like a studio downstairs. You had like all the TV presenters constantly presenting, and all the marketing and all the website stuff and all like the operational stuff upstairs. And I was developing web pages, websites, graphic design, emails at the same time too, and I was helping with some of the back end technical stuff as well. And I, it's funny, my then manager told me this. Got a fungus gnat flying around my face right now. But anyway, so my then
Find that
manager,
fly.
oh, it's everywhere. But it was a couple of years after I'd been at that company. And I remember he told me he didn't actually want to hire me, but it was his manager who wanted to hire me because I had 0 commercial experience. But he didn't regret hiring me one bit. It was one of the best decisions he made. And I was like, it was like so validating to hear that. But I think that was probably when I realized that I don't have to be on a path. I don't have to be like on this road to somewhere to, I don't know where I wanted to be. But I was doing something that satisfied my technical brain. I was working with numbers. I was doing SQL. I was working with code, and I was doing all that fun stuff. And I was doing a bit of graphic design, and I was being creative, and I was doing some fun things. And I was working with people who were in the same boat as me. They're like just wanting to do a job that they enjoyed doing for the time that they were at work, enjoyed being around each other. I was making money to be able to actually enjoy life. And like that was when I think that was my realization that your work does not have to identify who you are. Like you do not, like that is not what defines you. And I think that was that moment where I started doing email marketing, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. This is combining like everything that I learned when I was creating websites as a teenager and what I've learned right now, doing some technical stuff, and maths with stats was coming back to me because I did that at A levels. I was like, oh, I need statistics. I need to know how to calculate things right now. So it all still stuck with me. And I think that was the moment that I realized that this is what I want to do. I want to combine my creative side with my technical side. And this is that conjunction of the two. This is what enables me to do the two. And again, I don't necessarily think that like it has to be in one specific career or field. I like the ability of being able to combine being super creative with being super analytical and having that like and your technical side of you is like bolstering both your creativity and your kind of
Right.
other side of you as well. So I think that was the moment that I was like, oh, and I was making money, and I was enjoying the money, and I was going out and enjoying myself. And then that's when I was thinking, if I did medicine, I would be at med school right now, and I wouldn't be able to do all these things. And then that's when it clocked for my dad as well, because he wanted to retire at 50. That was his goal in life. He wanted to retire. But he wanted to retire after both of his kids, myself and my brother, had finished with their studies and were comfortable enough to be like on their own, because they wanted to retire in a different country. And that's when my dad realized that if I'd been at med school, he wouldn't have been able to retire at the age he did and go off to Portugal like he did. And that's when he realized that I had carved out my own. And essentially, I think that's when he realized too, he wanted me to have financial independence and be able to support myself and do everything that I wanted to be able to do. And I was doing that, doing something that I enjoyed doing. And he was off setting himself in Portugal and enjoying himself there. And I think that's like over the years, it's funny, he's done a complete 180. So from my mum's side, I'm one of the older cousins. So there's myself, my brother, and we have two other cousins, and we're all around the same age, like a late 30s right now, coming up into our early 40s. And then there's about a 6 to 8 year gap, I want to say, with the rest of our cousins, and then we have a lot of other cousins. And so there was like a big gap between us when it came to going to university. And they would come to me and be like, hey, you didn't do medicine. How come? Like all the other cousins are doing like medicine or pharmaceuticals or some pharmacology or something like that, pharmacy and dentistry and all that. And then that's when my dad became a proponent of, you do not need to do medicine or accountancy or engineering to be successful. And I was like, oh. And then he was telling my cousins that as well. And so it's all
You
turned
told
out
me that.
great. Yeah, it's all turned out fine in the end, but it's like there were so many moments in there that had to happen for him to learn this and for me to be in a career that I genuinely really love. So it all worked out in the end.
Yeah. It's only been in the maybe the last 100 years or so where children, first of all, that women had careers, that
Mm-hmm.
boys didn't necessarily follow in their father's footsteps. And it's only, it's been maybe two or three, a few generations that have taken this career path into a whole new dimension.
Mm-hmm.
A whole new dimension where, again, we have to want to do what we want to do. It's all about satisfying ourselves. Right now kids are coming out and they're not even working, they're traveling. It's very different, very different.
Yeah.
I think that what you said about the UK, that you had to, when you were a teenager, you had to select a study, right?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't happen in the States. It may be happening now, but it didn't happen when I was a kid. Um, we had, there were certain things we had to take and maybe a few electives, but um, if you didn't know what you didn't know, how do you know what you know? You know what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what I know, certainly. But all of looking back and looking forward now, I can say to myself, oh, this all made sense to me.
Yeah.
One of the things I did in high school was I was the editor in chief of a magazine I made up. I just made it up. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's where I am now. I make stuff
Yeah.
up and I do it. Um, and email marketing was that, because I told people in 2010, oh, Joy, what do you do for a living? Email marketing. What? What is that? Oh, those emails that you get, oh, spam? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Now people don't know what I do. Yeah, people still do not know what I do. And they
Yeah.
don't know where the emails are coming from. They have no
Mhm.
clue how they're getting made, how they end up in their inbox.
Most of the time, I think people still assume that it's like a robot or a program or it's all completely automated, that those emails just automatically end up in. They don't know that there's a, and maybe that's a good thing, and maybe it's a, I don't know, but it's wild that that's still a a thought out there that that's how they end up in your inbox.
Yeah, because I've now that, with cell phones, and I'll say I'm in email marketing, and they'll say, what? And I'll go into my phone, I'll open it up, and I'll say, see this email? See
Hmm.
this email? I made that. Oh, how'd you do that?
Yeah.
Okay, and that now gets a little bit more technical. But trust me, I
Yeah.
know what I'm doing. This is what I do for a living. And but now people say, "Oh, so you use constant contact." I'm like,
Yes.
no,
Yeah.
no. But you're getting warm. You're getting warm.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it all makes sense for me how it happened, and I think for the most part, for a lot of people who I don't want to say are happy, are happy with what they're doing, are satisfied with where they're at. I think if they look backwards and forwards, they actually did follow in the footsteps, and they sort of connected the dots that they may not have been aware existed back then, but it all makes sense now. So, in a way, you like science, you like animals, you wanted to, make people happy, make people
Hmm.
make animals happy, you wanted to fix stuff, and that's what you're doing, and that's sort of the same thing. I wanted to do research and
Hmm.
be able to take that research and put it into something and make it make sense. I still want to do that. It's usually the part that gets me in trouble when I'm working with my clients, because I'll say things like, "Yeah, but who are your demographics? Who are we speaking to? What are we
Hmm.
doing? What is the strategy? Can we go backwards?" And they just want to get some piece of
Yeah.
shit out the door, and they don't care.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Yeah.
our demographic is women. Okay, just get it out. Well, how
Yeah.
old are the women? I just what is their question? What are we solving? What are their pain points? Just I'm like, well, that makes it sustainable. They're like, are you still talking, Joy? it's it's difficult,
It is.
but so you have kids?
I do not. That's
Uh,
another thing that did not happen for me yet. Or like it's not, maybe it's not in my future, but like that was another thing that I was like, I thought I wanted to be. I wanted to be married. I have a husband. I'll have however many kids I will have. Like, but again, that hasn't happened, and that hasn't made me any less of a person that I
yeah,
am right now. It's like, but it again, I still don't know really now whether that was something because it was something my parents wanted me to be and have, or whether it was I wanted to have that. Again, it's like, is it societal pressures as well? Like, does that play into it? And but yeah, I'm happy with where I am. I have a career that I feel very confident with, and I love the people that I work with. I have been able to have a career that has enabled me to move countries several times, um, meet people from all over the world, be able to um, have a lovely, beautiful home that I've been able to build. And yeah, like you said, I think looking back, the past makes complete sense.
right. The other thing is that well, if I use my father as a litmus, excuse the pun, my father always said, if you love your work, you'll be happy. And he
Yeah.
loved his work. He loved his work. So, I followed in my father's footsteps along, and that, not everybody has that opportunity. They just work,
Hmm.
right? And a lot of people in my parents' generation just worked. They had a job. They were damn happy to have a job. They had
Mm-hmm.
a house. They cut the lawn. They drank cocktails. It was not so simple. I mean, I don't want to make it overly simple, but it was fairly simple. They didn't think, but are you happy at work? Is that what you want to
Yeah.
do? They didn't think about that. They were just happy to have a job.
Yeah.
Um, we don't think of it that way at all.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, they didn't get fired like we get fired or laid off.
Yeah.
So there was this relationship where you connected with a company and it was a family.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully it was functional family where they
Yeah.
were good to you. But in many cases, the question is, if you ask somebody in those days, um, what do you do for a living? And I'm a bricklayer or whatever. Um, they were happy because they, you know, they had the benefits. Everything was wound up with the
Mm-hmm.
company. Um, Perhaps they, would be promoted, but they never thought that they would grow out of the company. Very few people
Yeah.
did. Very few people did. So now we have no job security. We
Mm-mm.
can do, we can. I mean, I went through so many mergers and I got laid off so many times because of mergers that uh, that's when in the 2000s I said I'm not doing this anymore.
Mm.
Last time I was laid off, I was like, that's it. My husband said, "Are you looking for a job?" I'm like, "No, because I'm going to make myself a job." He's looking
Yeah.
at me going, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "I do not know. I'll let you know when I figure it out. But I'm not putting my eggs in one basket ever again."
Yeah. Yeah.
And there are some companies still that are great to,
Mm.
are providers. There are small companies that do that. But it hasn't. I haven't had that luck. So
And I'll also play the other like devil's advocate maybe a little bit here, but um I don't think companies put on a face, put on a external face. So as much as any company out there says, "Oh, we're family," like that is no company is gonna treat you like that. Like they're probably gonna treat you like some families treat their kids or whatever, their family and things like that. But like I think that whole idea is another thing that we need to get past because a company only really cares for itself, its own entity. It doesn't really care for its employees or anything. Like you may think you're in a super secure position or like you're indispensable and people love working with you, so no one's ever going to say companies care for companies themselves. Companies care for their bottom lines. And as much as we hope that there are companies out there that do not necessarily believe that, I think we would be naive to think that that is the way the world works. And I'm a
the
very
the
cynical
last
person,
10 years
perhaps.
of my husband's career, he worked for a petroleum company. Um, they treated him very well, and they did
Mm-hmm.
act like they were family. And it amazed me because when my husband passed away, and to this day, it's 3 years on the 13th that he's been gone. They still take care of me.
Wow. So
And
maybe
when
I'm
I say
wrong.
take
So maybe
care of
I'm.
me, they if I make a phone call to the company and I need help, they'll be right here. They'll send somebody
That's
over.
awesome.
Um, and that's very unusual. Very
Mm-hmm.
unusual. I never experienced that. I was not lucky enough. When my husband was he had cancer, and he came home one day with a television set, and I was like, "What?" And he said, "Oh, I won the lottery." And I'm thinking, "Oh my God, they put money together to buy him a TV and they told him he won the lottery."
Oh. That's so sweet.
And I was, maybe they didn't, maybe really did win a lottery, but I pretty much think that what they did was they said, okay, we're going to have a lottery for TV. Basically, behind the scenes is everybody give money because we're going to put the money together. We're going to buy Harry Brooks a TV. And they did.
Yeah.
And it was very sweet. I still have that television. Still have that television. It's unusual. It's very unusual. Work is so unusual, and in our what we see with the advent of solopreneurs, where everybody's like, "Okay, I'm going to be a coach," and you're thinking to yourself, "How is this sustainable? Is everybody going to be coaching
Yeah.
everyone else at some point? Everybody's going
Yeah.
to be a coach." You're going to coach the coaches? What is going on here? Is the education system failing us so badly that people need to be coaching other people?
Yeah. It's
I wonder about the coaching phenomena, where it comes from, where it's going, how it makes money. I mean, people say, "Oh, I'm making, 6 figures." I'm like, how are you do?
yeah.
I know people, they can't be lying because people are doing this, or at least they're saying they're doing it. But making 6 figures and traveling the world and charging people $20,000 so that they could talk about their problems on the phone. I know I'm shooting myself in the foot, but I'm merely saying the coaching phenomenon at work is, I can't stop thinking about it. I
I
have so many
wonder if
friends that are coaches.
it's a symptom of corporate life being turned into middle management life, where everyone essentially is a manager. And there's this now economy that needs to help manage the managers, but that doesn't necessarily exist within organizations. So people out there who are like, oh, I was a manager, I can be a coach. Though I don't want to play down the importance of coaches. I did have a coach of sorts last year for, I can't remember how many months. And it was super helpful for me to have someone to talk to as a manager who was objective, did not see me on a day-to-day basis, but I could be there and be honest with them, and they could help coach me through situations that I did not know how to handle as a manager. So I absolutely believe that there is space for it, but I agree with you in the sense that not everyone can be can be a coach. It takes a very specific skill set, expertise, and knowledge and experience to be able to go down that path, and to do it well. Because just because you've managed a team of people does not make you go out there and be a solopreneur and be a coach. That's what's concerning.
It's mentoring, and I think that that's lacking. Although it exists, I'm merely saying, when I went to school and when I went to college and when I graduated and I started working, I knew and I saw people being mentored by other people. It didn't happen to me, but it happened to other people. And that's very important. That's highest level networking that you could possibly. I mean, you get yourself a mentor and you're guaranteed something, right? It's more or less guaranteed because so and so is mentoring you, and that's prestigious. And I think at some point that stopped happening. Like, in other words, like internships. But not just, oh, okay, I'm going to come out of school and get a free internship and, nobody will care. You need that person who's going to care, who's going to take you to the next level. And you need that talent in that person who can recognize your skills and be able to draw those out of you where you don't even recognize that they exist, so that you could put it together and you could begin to say, oh, here are my talents. This is where I should be going. It's that's what I think is, well, that's what was lacking in my career. Some people were luckier. I mean, I often say, I wish I had done better in Spanish, and joined the debate team.
I have something similar. I wish I had kept up with my Spanish. So I did Spanish at school, and now I live in Arizona, and Spanish would be super helpful for me right now. So I wish I'd done that, and I wish I had stuck with team sports. I used to love playing team sports when I was in school. I played lacrosse, I played hockey, netball, rounders in
Cricket,
England, if they're
cricket.
rounders, so rounders are similar. But like I played all these team sports and I loved it. And then I grew up and I stopped doing it, and I wish I'd kept those up. So like those are the things that I wish I'd still done from my school life.
Sports instills a lot of discipline.
Mm,
You know,
it does.
also teamwork. If
Yeah.
I mean, it could be a turnoff if it doesn't work, but if it works, you learn how to work with people, and
Yeah.
draw out people's talents, because if I throw this ball to so and so, they're going to drop it, but if I pick this ball, they're going to they're at that goal, there's no way it's getting in there.
Yes.
Who could do what. And that's how you work with people. It's sort of like, I'm not good at this, you are, I
Yeah.
need you to be on my team. That's how you
Yeah.
collaborate. That's something else that isn't necessarily taught.
Mm-mm.
Competition is, but we're not taught how to draw on each other's strengths, to make something actually happen, which is what a manager does.
Yeah, it is. And I
Otherwise,
think
it's
they
output.
tried. Yes. I think they tried to do that with like group projects in college or university. Again, I hate to say this, like I hate to like identify so heavily with like effectively a personality test. But as a one, like I'm a perfectionist. I like to do things right. I like to get things done. So whenever we had group projects at university, I would be the one who'd be like, "Hey, have you done this? Is this not done? Is this?" And then I would go and take on the load because so and so is always the one who drops things. So and so is always the one who never shows up to our meetings. So and so is like,
I'm that
so
type
I
of
was that
person too.
one.
I was that
Yeah.
type of person too. It's like,
But so I think group
if
projects are trying to do that as part of university, but they don't have that same impact that, like you said, about team sports. Because when you're playing lacrosse, you are throwing very, very hard balls at people very, very quickly. And you have to know who you can rely on in an instant, or you have to know how to communicate with every single member of your team. So I knew, like, I know I need to shout at that person to know that I need to give them a heads up, or that person they've been watching me. I know they watch me, so I can throw something over to them without even having to look at them. And you build up those relationships. And you're right, like team sports they build so much in you that is like subconsciously there.
the assumption is that everybody in that sport is there because they're good at it. And that's what the groups need to be. It's like when you're working in an office and they put you in a group, you assume that everybody knows their responsibilities and they're going to do it. That's the
Mm-hmm.
problem when the group falls apart. When,
Yeah.
4 people are in the group and they're like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, I don't do anything. I just, do as much as I need to do. And that's it. So, that's when I raise my hand. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And I do it. And that's in.
Yeah.
Which is, again, a reason why in email marketing I have been able to be a project lead, to be able to get all the resources, put it all together, solve all the problems, get it all done in time. And it's a little unusual, the old email unicorn thing, because I'm more than happy to do it all, but that also holds me back from being like
Mm-hmm.
just strategy or just production or just development, back end, front end. It's like I can do it all. Well, nobody recognizes that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
There was a point in time, 5 years, where I was in high demand, and then it came to like, we just need a strategist. Well, I mean, we just need an automation specialist. We just need,
Yeah.
like, oh
Yeah.
gosh. So it is what it is, which is, why
Yeah.
I'm a contractor. It is what it is.
Hmm.
It's a good thing. What's going on with Litmus? Anything coming up that you want to share with the listening audience or the sleeping
Yes.
audience, be that as
Or
it
the
may?
sleep, the audience in general. Yes, so I will not be there, but Litmus will be at Salesforce Connections on the 22nd of May. Please go and say hello to our lovely folks at Litmus. Karen Slater is going to be there. Angie Wayman is doing a session there all about, I'm going to tease this out. We're going to be talking about email ROI, but we're going to be taking a very, very different perspective on email ROI that rather than people what usually talk about there. So I wish I had the booth number offhand, but maybe you can go a little bit of a treasure hunt. There will be swag there. There may be donuts. I think Karen might have been talking about donuts at some point, but it will be Karen's birthday. So please go and tell Karen happy birthday if you're going to Salesforce Connections on May 22nd.
May 22nd. 22nd. And where is it?
It's in Chicago at Salesforce Connections. So
Very
yeah,
good.
if you're there, go tell Karen happy birthday, and I'm sure she'll give you some swag in return.
So you could give her a donut with a big candle in the middle. One of her own donuts.
Yes.
Bring candles, in other words. Well, we did this little want to be, what do you want to be when you grow up type of a thing. Interesting. Will you go to sleep at night wondering, gee, what, the other thing, the biggest thing, how about this? This is a good question too, to leave the audience. What was the one movie, TV show, whatever, piece of art, song, I don't know, something that stuck with you that really makes you who you are today?
So I'm a big Christopher Nolan fan. I love his films. What I like particularly about his films is his non-linear approach to time. So his films talk about like things could be happening in parallel or in tandem, like there's nothing that comes before or after, and that gave me such comfort, especially things, I think it was like Interstellar, and the idea that like you can peek back in time or you can see things in motion. Like time is not, it's not going backwards and forwards, it's kind of all around us. And so that concept gives me such comfort that's what sticks with me. Like it's not like a race to the end or anything like that. It's just everything that's happening around us will happen again and has happened before. And so that's what sticks with me a lot, is the idea of time not being linear.
When you mentioned him, I was thinking to myself, is that Interstellar? Did he do did he also do, was it the movie Arrival? Did he do
He
Arrival?
didn't do Arrival. That was Villeneuve, but he did Inception. He's done Tenet. He did Dunkirk, and he did Oppenheimer as well. But like his films where he talks like where time is just not Memento, another one. Like, that's what gives me comfort, because
It's kind of, why? Because it's sort of like, it sort of kindly answers the question why, what, and how with, I don't know.
yeah,
And you're like, yeah, and I'm
exactly.
okay with that. I'm okay
Yeah,
with that. I don't know.
exactly.
And it's not like, oh my God, I don't know. It's like,
Yeah,
I don't know. It's a
I don't
good
know, and that's
question.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. You like this one. I don't know if you're familiar with one of the original Peter Pans with Mary Martin. She played Peter Pan.
Yes.
And I won't grow up. I won't grow up.
Mm-hmm.
It really stuck with me. I won't grow up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go to school. I don't. I'll start singing that song. I won't grow up. I still, to
I
this
love that.
day, I'm like, you know what? I won't grow up.
Yeah.
I have no concept we're doing a time thing here. I have no
Mm.
concept of time. I don't know what I should be doing for my age. A lot of people, my friends, are doing their bucket lists. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I have nothing to catch up with.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, happens. Because
Yeah.
I don't know what I don't even want to mention my age. I don't know what a 68-year-old woman should be doing, and I don't care because I'll just do what I want to do.
Yeah.
Right? I won't grow up.
Yeah.
I don't, I don't have this concept of. I amaze myself sometimes, and I'm like, 68. When did that happen? Like I woke up. I'm like 18. I woke up, and I'm what? How
Yeah.
did that happen? So yeah. So
Yeah.
also, my mom used to always say, and I hated it when she said it. I can't. An old dog can't learn new tricks. And I'm like, when she said that, it used to drive me nuts. So to this day, I'm always changing my mind. I'm like, you know what? I'll
Mm-hmm.
learn a new trick. If you can tell me something and you can prove it to me, I'll change my mind. Please do
Yeah.
it. Do it. If you talk about something and you're like, I staunchly believe this, I'll be like, oh, that person really has convictions, and I'll go look it up, and then I make my own. I make my
Mm-hmm.
own decision. Like, I wish I could be, as convicted as that person. I can't, but I'm glad they brought it up to me because it's something I didn't know, and now I do, sort of, kind of, maybe. Of course, the internet will tell me. Well, it was a certain pleasure meeting and talking with you about Peter Pan, right?
Important things.
Doctor Who, Doctor Who? No, not that doctor.
No, no,
Doctor
that's
what?
it. Yeah, that one.
That Doctor what? And hopefully you've had fun. Maybe
I have.
good.
I have had a blast. Thank you so much for the invite, Joy. It's been I'm going to say it. I'm sorry. I apologize. It's been a joy. Um,
That's okay. I made
uh,
a litmus pun, right? You can make a joy pun.
so we're even now. That's good. It's
We're
good.
even. Do you have any last words for the audience before you go?
I, if you don't have a path that you think you need to be on, that's totally okay. No one has a path. No one really knows what they're doing in their lives. People may say they know exactly. No one knows what the hell is going on. We're just all on this rocky ride together on this big giant planet, just trying to make the most of it. So that's what I'll leave you with. That's where my brain is at right now.
Right. And if we could all do it smiling, it's probably a lot more enjoyable than if we're miserable.
Yes,
Right? That's how I look at
exactly.
it. Smile, smile.
Yeah,
And the world smiles with you.
yeah. But hey, if there's one day you don't want to smile, that's totally okay too. Sometimes there are
Yeah.
days where you're like, I'm not gonna smile today.
But
I'm
you
just
know
gonna
what I've
be.
always said to myself? It's an odd kind of thing. Enjoy your sorrow because it's bittersweet.
Mm,
It's like bittersweet
yeah.
chocolate. It's like, oh, I'm feeling badly about this. Enjoy that in an odd way. Enjoy it. Learn from it. Take something away from it. Use it as a building block, a piece of cement. Bring two things together, and make it a. It's not really negative to feel badly.
No.
The negative part is when you feel that there's no solution,
Mm,
that there's no way out, that it's endless, that it's sorrow. Because, as I said, I look at it when I'm feeling sorry for myself, or confused, or frustrated, or any of those normal things that everybody has. I always try to remind myself, okay, I'm passing through this moment. There's something I need to get out of it. Let's see what I need to get out of it. And let's get out of it as quickly as possible because I'm really not comfortable and I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here
yeah.
that long. Not that we need to be hysterically laughing and smiling and, that's not the point. The point is, if it's if there's something wrong, you need to be able to solve it. And if you can't solve it, that's when you look to other people that you love and who love you. And
Yeah.
hopefully, they're out there. Sometimes I think it's only my dogs, but they do help me. They do help me.
Yeah.
They're very sweet. So,
Exactly.
and along the lines of time and all this types of stuff, I don't know, but animals come into your life like people come into your life. Animals are softer. Like you said, you were an animal person. Animals are softer. I mean, it could be a bee. I'm quite serious. Oh my God, it's a bee. I'm like, oh, my friends, do you realize what bees are?
Yeah.
They're these incredible producers. Why are you afraid of them? Oh my God, they sting. I'm like, oh, all right, never mind. But, I just try to recognize a fly like flying around the room. I just try to recognize everything for what it is.
Yeah.
Negative and positive, and turn it into a positive. Even when I'm hitting my head against the wall, like, this is positively killing me right now.
But like you said, it's right now. It'll pass.
It'll
And
pass.
it'll be done.
It'll pass. I have an odd way of looking at negative things positively, but that is uniquely Joy. Thanks so much.
Oh, thank you so much, Joy.
All right, then. And that's a wrap.
Awesome.